Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Good Morning Education Show. My name is Rotimi Itai, and such a pleasure to be here this morning. Thank you all for joining. Thank you for being a part of the show. We're streaming from Lagos, Nigeria to West Africa to the entire world. And if you're just connecting with us, please do let us know what your name is, where your location is, where you're streaming from. And of course, if it's your first time experience on the show, do let us know as well. We have a bell of blessing to share your welcome experience with us. And of course, please do tell everyone out there that it's time for the Good Morning Education Show. Please join us as we are starting today. We're going to be having a great time together. And I'm always very confident of the fact that it's always a great morning on the Good Morning Education Show. Tell someone to tell someone the show is started. We're going to be having a blast. We're going to be having a great time together. On this show, we are always taking time out to recognize individuals who are tribe members, who have always been there, who are consistent in being a part of the show. And today will not be an exception. And then when we do that, we'll do that intermittently. We'll take their comments as well. We'll take their contributions. And of course, one of the fantastic aspects of the show is where we have our analysts, our guests, who spend time to tell us their views from their world, from their wealth of experience and exposure, tell us about what they think about what's happening on the topic of the day. And of course, we also move to the point of sharing news elements that we got or that refers to the situations around news within and around the world of education. Today is going to be a great morning. It's going to be a great day. It's going to be a great experience. And trust me, you don't want to miss it. We're going to start with the headline news. And once we're done with that, we will also move over to the major conversation of the day. And remember, it's always a great morning on the Good Morning Education Show. If you can hear us and if you can see us, send us a message, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube. We are always there and we'll be willing to show your message to the entire world. It's a great morning today, and I believe that you will have a great time on the show. So I'm going to start with the first headline news. And before then, I'm going to recognize Eunice. Eunice has now become a tribe member. She's always consistently online. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, Eunice. Thank you for being a part of the education show this morning. Um, we have Kano to redeploy 5,000 civil servants to classrooms today. That's what we have as the headline um, for 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 Kano content. So it says Kano to redeploy 5,000 civil servants to classrooms. Well, we know that there's been an outcry and an issue around teacher shortage. And teacher supply has also been a critical element of concern because sometimes we find that there are times that students have no class, or better still, students have overcrowded classrooms because the manpower is not evenly distributed across certain local governments or certain states. So we would watch and see how this plays out. 5,000 civil servants, yes, that's a number that we can't ignore. It will definitely help, but we need to be sure how strategic is this move, because it's not just human beings that are meant to be in the classroom, it is actually teachers that are meant to be in the classroom. And the title teacher is not necessarily equating to the tag adult. I believe that just being an adult does not make you a teacher, or being one who has passed through the university system does not automatically qualify you or make you a qualified teacher. And that's why our concern and our thought and expression will be how to be able to see the dynamics, of having teachers, you know, eh, being supported by civil servants. And I hope that the trainings required, the supervision required, the support required will be experienced, to be able to ensure that we are not making a bad move or causing more harm than good. Sometimes you find that at the end of the day, it's almost like you're having more harm than good when what you have is that you are taking people who do not know expected behavior of students, who do not know classroom management, who do not know behavioral management, who do not know how to counsel or connect with students. And you're putting them in front of the class simply because you have a shortage crisis. You might eventually have a development crisis in the short and in the long run. So I believe that that's a big element that needs to be looked into. And that could also solve a lot of problems. And I believe that with time, we'll begin to see things begin to manifest in the real sense of it. So I'll say well done, but then, like the proverbial statement is, we watch and we pray, and believe that it's going to be a great one indeed. Let's go over to the next one, which is EFCC to begin anti-corruption studies in schools. Anti-corruption studies in schools by EFCC. That's a headline that we must not ignore. Yes, of course, we've seen that corruption has become something systemic, and also in itself a kind of nation-based pandemic. It's an epidemic that has now become, how do I put it, whitewalled or whitewashed. And it's unfortunate that we're seeing things, happening at all levels. And now the Economic Financial and Crimes Commission is taking it into schools to ensure that they don't just deal with corrective, they also try to achieve preventive. Preventive being in the sense that we are able to ensure that the corruption that is happening within our school systems is tackled, and not just school system, but in the entire country. And if you're going to catch them young, you're able to get the values of people in sync, get the values in check, get them to be in the right place, in the right position at the right time. And I believe that that will really help to be able to shape in society, because most of the things we are seeing now is that we're seeing a lot of things at the fruit stage, and we're trying to take off the fruits that we don't like, and at the expense of the roots itself. So I believe that with time, that will be sorted out, and we'll be able to work on that. Let me welcome Ebenezer on the show today. Eben, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Rotimi. Good morning.
How are you?
Happy New Week, sir.
Yes. Good morning. How are you? Finn, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Mr. Rotimi. Good morning, Mr. Eben. Good morning to our tribe this morning, and good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to a great new week.
All right. So I have another headline news here. Cross River government shut down Unicross indefinitely. Unicross indefinitely. Of course, this is another institution of state, another institution of learning that has also been put on shutdown because of several crises happening in society, predominantly security challenges. Eben, do you have anything to say to this?
I did not actually hear the headline well. You said Cross River. What is that happening so that I can contribute?
The government of Cross River State is shutting down Unicross indefinitely.
Wow, the whole university. I did not actually have much to say about it because I know that there are a lot of plans to actually make some of this come into reality, and it is actually happening. So we just hope that God can intervene through the use of people to make some of these crises come to an end.
All right, thank you. How about Finn? Do you have anything to say?
I think we should be moving away from things like solutions such as shutting down an institution indefinitely. If they had intelligence reports that there was going to be disruption, there was going to be an invasion into their campus. I think the proactive thing to do would have been, first of all, to see how to mitigate that, how to get the situation, ensure that this thing doesn't happen. And in case it happens, what would be done to keep those on campus safe? And even if the situation is dire enough to warrant the school being closed for a while, it should be for a specific time. We're going to have this put in place by this time, and at this time students are able to resume it shouldn't be saying that the school is shut down indefinitely. It's like saying, oh well, we're helpless, so we need to wait this thing out and see how it goes and stuff like that. I think by now we should be moving away from drastic and sedentary solutions like just shutting down an institution indefinitely, forgetting that lives are involved, lives are going to be affected here, the years or the months, or even if it's weeks that the student lose, they can't regain it back in time. They would only be playing catch up as they go. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
All right, thank you very much. We head over to another headline, and that is call off your strike. Alumni calls on academic staff. That's Kaduna Polytechnic.
Okay, so the Alumni Association of the school, usually they're able to wade into situations that come up in their school and intervene in situations. And in this case, where the Kaduna Poly alumni is calling on the academic staff, I think it shouldn't just be them coming out to say, oh, call off your strike. Yes, everybody's tired of the strike. Nobody wants to hear that any association or union in the university is going on strike now. But I think the alumni body should be like an intermediary between maybe the school authorities and the academic staff union, or maybe the federal government and academic staff union, and see how they can intervene, see what they can do to ensure that the strike doesn't, because the way we are in this part of the world with things such as hierarchy and respect and all of that, could be like, okay, so who are you to ask us not to ask us to call off our strike? And that could even cause another issue. But if they're able to come in and mediate between the two parties that are not in alignment right now, and see what can be done based on the alumni strength or based on intervention that they may be able to bring to the table, I think that will be more proactive. That will be more proactive for the alumni body. And really, these unions, these associations need to begin to find other ways to press on their points and to have their requests acceded to.
I actually want to say something. After ASU, a lot of people, a lot of organizations, a lot of bodies under the academic are actually thinking of also taking advantage of what ASU have actually done. So that is why some of these strikes are actually been coming in. I was interrogating the students of the Laro Poly, and I said, "What are you doing at home?" And she told me that they are on strike. I said, "Who is on strike again?" She said the non-academic musical. And I already know that after ASU, all those the smaller units of each of the body in our institution usually go on strike because they have their own demand also. So alumni coming in right now is just maybe they are just looking for ways to just write an article to me, because some of those alumni also most of them are also staff of non-teaching staff. Most of them also they are also staff of teaching staff. So to me, it's just like let us just do something, because there is nothing they can do to actually persuade some of those bodies to stop their strike. It's only the federal government that can do maybe just little of their request. If possible, 30%, meet up 30% of their request and make everything stable because ASU has already done their own and then they won. So far they won the game, it is very sure that other organizations we want to also come in and make sure they win the game. If possible, win or one win more than others. So that is just my observation. That's my observation.
Your mic is muted, Mr. Rotimi.
Yes, so I said thank you for that. I said we must be reminded that strike is also an industrial tool. And most times, of course, it's meant to be a tool of last resort. But a lot of times when there appears to be a weak communication between stakeholders, it becomes the first and only tool deployed. So sometimes we might look at it from the angle of either the government needs to also look at poor messaging from its end or perceived weakness from the government, because when we notice that the government itself is not showing itself as strong in certain areas, then it's possible for strike to be a very good tool to bring the government to its knees. So, and there's always negotiation in the area of strike, but I think that we're still approaching these things like we're in dictatorship era, military era. So I hope that changes one of these days, actually. So before we take our next headline, let's just say good morning to some people. Mr. Smart Ongara is online and is here today. Good morning. Thank you for joining. Welcome to the show. And we also have Iyanoluwa Olaniyan. Thank you for joining. Mr. Smart, thank you also for joining. Let's move to the other headline. Bridge delivers high quality education by Uche Oji, NSIA MD. Bridge, I'm sure most of you know Bridge, the Bridge Academy, and that's a very powerful reference, when we're looking at people who have been able to, organizations who have been able to reposition the face of education from especially public or low income schools. So high quality education, I say thumbs up to Bridge, and kudos to Bridge as well. Iben, do you want to say something on that?
No.
All right. How about you?
I'll just say well done to Bridge Academies, and they do not, and say they don't rest on their oars. They should keep going, and other organizations, individuals who can who can replicate this in other states should also please get on board. I don't think we can ever have enough of such interventions.
Okay. Thank you. Let's have another headline. I think that's really it for the day on the headline. We'll move over to the topic of the day. And the topic of the day is teachers' uniform. It would be nice to see what Iben is putting on today to be sure if Iben is in uniform. Iben, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm sorry, I did not actually hear the last headline. Congratulations to Bridge before we start. Congratulations, and I'm very sure more exploration for him.
All right, so we're straight on to the conversation of the day, and we are looking at teachers' uniform. Teachers' uniform. I'm sure looking at this topic, several things will come to your mind, right? Eben, what comes to your mind when you see the word teacher's uniform? When you see the topic, what comes to your mind?
I think, Mr. Rotimi, we are going to do an introduction to this topic because I think this topic needs very good introduction to be able to know where we are going to start the discussion, because I so much love the topic and it's also a topic of my own interest. So if we can get like an introduction to it, we'll be able to know where to start and how to end it.
Okay, so we're talking about when we talk about teachers' uniform, of course, two things would be major perspective. The fact is that we're talking about the teacher's outlook. Outlook in the sense that what the teacher puts on, what the teacher puts onto school, puts onto class, right? And then the second perspective of teacher's uniform, more or less is beyond the attire or the regalia or the outlook, but most centered on the methodology of teaching. So, looking at your teacher style, teacher signature, I'm sure growing up, you remember that there's certain things we found common with teachers. It was uniform to them. And it's almost like a stock in trade for teachers to see teachers do certain things. Just from my recent trip to one of the states, and I was on a program that was going around training teachers. I found out that one of the things that was common with some public school teachers was the concept of when you use the word kneel down. That was uniform to students and to teachers. It's almost like the most frequently said word or said I don't know how to put it, but one of the most frequently used words is kneel down there. What are you doing? Kneel down there. What are you doing? Those two words came tops. So we're going to be deliberating on the outlook and the signature style of teachers today. That's what the topic is about. And while you were asking the question, we had Safety Chick join us. Let's welcome Safety Chick. Good morning, Safety Chick.
Had a beautiful weekend.
We just heard you say had a beautiful weekend. I think the network was
Oh, wow. I said good morning, sir. Good morning, everyone. Hope we all had a beautiful weekend.
Okay. Good morning. Yes, we had a beautiful, busy weekend. And I hope you're back in Lagos.
Yeah, I came back on Thursday morning.
Oh, we didn't know. Thought you were still in Osun State. All right. So back to the question of the day, teacher's uniform. So Eben, are you ready for us? We'll start with Eben, we'll go to Fini, then we'll come to Safety Chick. Eben, are you there? Okay, let's have Fee. Could you start off while we're waiting for Eben?
Okay, so I think when it comes to teachers' uniform, there are a number of things involved. We have from behavior to dressing to mannerisms that students can say, once you meet somebody, for instance, there are times that I meet people maybe for the first time and I can almost say for certain that they're teachers. There is something about the way they talk. There's something about the way they address people that just shows that this person is a teacher, is likely a teacher. And I think when it comes to the uniformity in teachers, it could be a good thing, and in some cases it could be just not very pleasant. Like, okay, so we know that in time past, not so much now, but a few years back, you meet a teacher on the road and you can tell from their dressing that they're teachers. There's just this thing about the way they dress. It wasn't very appealing. It wasn't the hairstyle, the kind of the choice of dressing was just bland and just screamed teacher, the moment you see it. But we're moving away gradually from that. We're seeing more teachers who are being responsibly dressed, but not drab. Then it should be for anyone who is handling children daily. You have stuff to do with them. Your outlook should appeal to them. Your mannerism should appeal to them. Typically, when you ask children to do dramas where they have to have a teacher, the first thing the child is looking for as prop is a stick. Because they have just the teacher has just been is identified by, once you see a stick in somebody's hand, you know, okay, this is a teacher. And really that is not what it is. I don't think there is any teacher now that takes canes to the classroom. But even if they are not taking canes to the classroom, is the mannerism still does it still give the children that idea that, if only this teacher had the opportunity to bring a cane into the classroom, then that's what she would be using or he would be using right now. When I think of teachers' uniform, I think of teachers being uniform in across wherever, with the uniqueness of location coming in, but across board, across states, across regions, the uniformity of excellence, the uniformity of approachability, the uniformity of empathy, the uniformity of passing across instruction in such a way that it's easy and it's simple for students to assimilate. That's what I think about when I think about teachers' uniform. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ugochi, are you there? Do you want to share something about that?
Okay, so in terms of teacher uniform, well, I'll just say that if it's like a dress code, like a code, if teacher's uniform is referring to dressing, right? Just to be sure that I got what has been said so far. It's referring to dressing. Now, if that is the case, then I'll just say that I would rather a code than a uniform, because I know that many people do not really like the idea of a uniform per se, most especially as adults, because it doesn't allow them to also express their individuality. You see what I mean? But if it's a code, just a guiding principle, I think that works. I think that's fair and it caters to everybody, regardless of what side you stand on. Then if there is anything again that should be uniform, it should be the quality that you bring to the class, that feelings of compassion, that empathy, quality knowledge again that you bring, so that we don't have a case where a child moves, for example, from primary 3 to primary 4 and is now comparing notes and saying, no, I prefer my teacher in primary 3 because this one in primary 4 does that, it's not encouraging and stuff like that. So this is me just speaking to you from the angle of dressing, and also from the angle of the other things that make a teacher who they really are to the children in class. Back to you, sir.
Thank you very much. We actually like the way you pictured the code as an element of consciousness, which of course the uniform is not necessarily dressing, but of course the outlook and the signature of the people we call teachers, the learning facilitators in the classroom and beyond the classroom. So let's listen to Eben as well. Eben, over to you.
So sorry, I switched my phone the other time. So when we talk about the teacher's uniform, I see it as a form of teacher's identity, because identity actually creates a lot of reality out there. And there is no teacher without identity. As I used to tell teachers in my training, your classroom is the identity of you. good or bad, you have actually created an impression when people actually come in. Likewise, for school owners out there, the front of their school is the identity of their school. So when I see the front of your school or see your school entirely, I already know who you are, and I already know what the kind of quality you are actually bringing out there. So when we bring it down to the teachers in the classroom, it actually goes very wide, because under the identity itself, we talk about your personality, how you approach problem in the school. Are you a teacher whereby when you are angry, you shout at the student, some of those things that we do? And are you a teacher that you approach problem with an open mind, making sure that you check what happened left and what happened right before you conclude? Likewise, when we move down to the teacher's identity in form of dressing, I also see a lot of things out there that we do it in form of tradition, and we make it in such a way that this is the particular dressing that is meant to be in the school environment. There are some schools that trousers are not allowed. There are some schools that if you don't wear trousers, you are not even allowed in the school. So identity and teachers' uniform is a very wide topic, and I will look for a way to stream it to a particular one at the end of the program. But I surely know that teachers' uniformity talks about their personality, talks about their dressing, talks about their teaching style, talks about their environment, and also talks about their approach to problems.
All right, thank you so much, Iben. You've been able to open that up, and I'm going to take a slice from the pie that you just shared with us. And the point I'm trying to make is that now that you've talked a bit about dressing, you mentioned a little bit about that. Ugochi's opening statement was heavily about dressing. So let's even go to the dressing in the uniform. So what's about the collective of the teachers dressing that, like, is almost following what he said, that you can almost identify someone as a teacher by just mere first sight, first observation. Why is it that it's that communal that you are able to see that teachers look alike or teachers dress alike? And is there any implication to that? Should there be anything we should be looking at in that regard? Let's hear from you.
Okay, so I think that teachers typically look alike because there is this expectation of society of teachers to look a particular way. The teachers, when my parents were growing up, were more like the parents of the children. So if there was any child that was being naughty or being difficult, they were sent to the teachers or to the headmaster's house to live there, and that child was going to be put back into shape before they returned to their parents' homes. So that meant that there was a particular look that teachers had to have. Then they were seen very closely associated with the colonial masters. So you had the men wearing a lot of French suits or with their bow ties, tucking in and all of that, and the women very strict looking because they were to be the model for the girls in dressing, in how they look, and how they carry themselves. However, we see that these days, the kind of teaching that was done then is not really the process, and the process of passing across instruction then is quite different from what it is now. Then the teacher was in front of the class and gave instruction from the front of the class. Now teachers are with the students. You sit with them at their desk. Sometimes you have to sit with them on the floor to get things done. And that means that there are certain types of outfits that will not work for you to be that free. Considering also whether for some people who are very, very sensitive to heat, having a teacher in all suits, whether male or female, you have your skirt suit, trouser suit, whatever suits, gowns, very corporate gowns and all of that, it makes it a little difficult to concentrate and also be deal with the weather, concentrate, and still give the best to the students. So I think that what our society has expected, the dress code that we have fitted teachers into, is for them to be the model. It's for them to be the one that you look up to. It's for them to be, and when they try to do all of that, then they're just very unappealing. It's khakis, colors that are not very bright, dull, drab, and then the cut of the dress, they really will not typically go to uh, the high-end tailors or tailors who are really cool with, it's just cut like that, just because they need to look in a particular way that the society approves. But these days we are seeing teachers who come to class, even if they're wearing trousers and t-shirt, they look really smart, well covered up. They still look like they still look like models to the students anyway. And one thing that I wonder when it comes to teachers dressing in particular, like their uniform, is why we think that parents can come to school, maybe have double piercings, maybe have nose piercings, and we do not, you live with your child sees you like that. And then we say, oh, the teacher cannot do this. The teacher cannot have, she has double piercings, or maybe she has multiple piercings. And then we say, oh, she can't have that. Or the man cannot have his hair styled in a particular way. Meanwhile, parents have that. So I wonder at the double standards that society imposes on teachers when it comes to their dressing, or tries to impose on teachers, because see parents begin to complain, oh, my child cannot be in this person's class if they're looking like this, if they're looking like that. No, the important thing for me is that a teacher is neatly dressed, is responsibly dressed, and that their dressing is comfortable enough for them to pass across, and for them to be able to carry out their duties effectively in the classroom.
Thank you very much for that. That's quite exhaustive. Let's hear from Ugochi now. So still on the matter of dressing, but this time around, how do you address the issue of both extremes? We have sometimes the concerns of the conservatives, we have the expressives, we also have the extremists, and looking at education of today, how much of our personality must be infused into our outlook, especially when we come into the learning environment. Over to you, Gucci.
Okay, so I'll just say that this thing about dressing, there's a lot of self-regulation that needs to come into it. And self-regulation, because so your school, for example, might give a code and say, this is how we dress here. They may not specifically say, oh, it has to be white shirt and black trousers, or maybe the way we had law students have it in school, right? But maybe there is this general code that has been given. Now, I know that it is actually better for the individuals, the teachers themselves, to also self-regulate. Know your body type. Do you, as a woman, for example, if you have a particular body shape that is more plump, there's some certain outfits that you wear that would not look good enough for you to stand in front of a class. But a slim person, a slimmer version, is going to wear that same thing and nothing would happen. And it will just look as if it will not even look as if any difference was made. Do you see what I mean? So I think it's about self-regulation. When you finish dressing up and you stand in front of your mirror and you ask yourself, will my students be paying attention to me, or would they be distracted by what I am putting on? Most especially if you're going to be teaching teenagers, and you know that many times teenage boys are in that stage where there's a lot going on in their minds. So you just have to self-regulate. You don't need anybody to force you or chase you. So as much as schools can try to create a boundary line for for things to be done right. If you, the individual, you refuse to self-regulate because you say, and they said, and we can wear pencil skirt, and it's pencil skirt I'm wearing, but you know that your own pencil skirt has packed all the cuffs, all the cuffs has packed everything, you know, and it's going to be distracting for the young children. Then by yourself, you should self-regulate. So for me, that's really what I think about this, because I remember that when we had that session when we went to train the Lagos State teachers ahead of school resumption after the lockdown. We had teachers in class, and I saw a teacher. Her dress was lovely, everything, but because of her body type, her body had packed everything, and so her clothes was a bit shorter. It looked, if she was in front of a class, it would look as if maybe she wasn't being decent. But the truth is, the dress was okay. It's just that for her body type, that clothes was not suitable for her to stand in front of a class. So a lot of self-regulation, and for self-regulation to happen, it means the teachers themselves need to tell themselves the truth, you know, or without anybody breathing down your neck, by yourself, standing in front of the mirror. Will your students be distracted? Will they pay attention? And it's not that they can't, students cannot admire what you're putting on. Of course, they can admire, but distraction is different from admiration, you know. So once we can create those defining lines, I think we'll be fine.
Okay, we have Olatunde Adebayo giving us a comment there, saying that the teacher's identity is and should be the modesty of the teaching profession, an expected ethical standard to be modeled. The question I'd like to raise from this comment is, what now defines modesty and what becomes ethical standards? Because we are all talking about a new kind of education disruption. We're talking about reflecting the future of education in today's world. We're seeing situations where even when it comes to dressing or hairdo, the trend has really evolved. You know, we are not now we are having locks as almost like a common thing in today's culture. People are having their hair locked. You know, people are going natural from those who were not going natural before. People are doing all sorts of things. People are partly braiding and partly cutting their hair. At some point in time, it was a craze of mohawk and all those things. So how do we begin to define modesty? Eben is even showing us his own haircut as well. He has had several longitude and latitude haircut styles, you know.
I can't actually wait to comment on something that you just said now, which is the teacher's hairstyle. You know, I observe a lot. I think it was raining. It started raining around 2019, where some teachers now do a lot of pink hair. There was even a time I was against it, but when I saw some people actually doing it, I was just like, okay, I think this thing is normal because, and I came in conclusion after that observation that there's no rules. There's no rules towards identity. This world is so much funny that when you call something a rules, in the next 10 to 15 years, it's going to turn to normal. Before in Nigeria, some of us don't wear wig, but now it is normal. Before in Nigeria, there's no piercing of nose, now it is normal. Before in Nigeria, there's no wearing of chain in our legs as female or female. Now it is normal. So I observe that when we talk about it as a standard for others to actually copy, in the nearest future, those standards are going to be reviewed in such a way that it will suit the present environment. So talking about teachers in the classroom, I know a lot of Montessori school that talks about you can't come to their school wearing a skirt. Yes, very sure of that. You can't come to their school wearing a skirt. You can only come to their classroom wearing a trouser. Even if you are a thorough believer, you don't have choice than to actually go with those
Yeah,
rules.
but do you want to share?
And the other
why
ones not thorough
Nasi's,
believers.
we'll go to let him share why. Let him share why.
Why
I think there's a reason behind the thinking of functional clothes within the classroom. For example, Montessori school. You want to
Yes, there is.
share on that?
There is because of the sitting position, and also when teaching in the Montessori environment, there are so many teaching style that you need to embrace that wearing of skirts may not actually allow you to. But we remember before when we were schooling, some of those things were like against the teaching style. Yeah, I'm even sure that it was even written in a paper. So for now, it is not a rule anymore. It is not rampant in some schools, but I'm very sure in some schools later, I'm very sure that a lot of teachers will be wearing trousers to the classroom. So I'm not saying that it is not good, but what I'm trying to just say is that there's going to be anytime we create a rules, or we are trying to create like, okay, this is the best way to actually approach this and that. I used to have it in mind that there's no how we can do it. Some of these things are going to be broken, and then another one is are going to be created as a standard for other people to follow.
Okay,
I think
thank you for. Are you done?
No, yeah, I'm done.
Okay, so Eben has raised a very interesting point. So, are we saying that based on the model from the school or based on the bias of the educator, that we might not have the capacity of, going all the way, thinking about it, what exactly should we call corporate dresses? I want you to say something about that. When you say corporate dress, because there's a lot of fallacy on that concept that people don't even know that they've adopted when they say corporate dress. All right, over to you.
Okay, so corporate dresses generally are those structured dresses, either as a dress or as a skirt and blouse or as a top and trousers. Ladies have corporate trousers. They're struck. There's a particular way they're tailored. And for men, corporate dressing is just formal, very formal, shirt and trouser, or you include a jacket with a tie or whatever. That's what corporate dress. But from the way I interpret corporate dressing is any dressing that is functional enough for the workplace. It's not something you would wear to a party. So I would not say something shimmering and bright and with maybe a lot of shoulder, with extra materials on the shoulders, around something that you really need like a train to help you carry. That for me would not be corporate dressing. Corporate dressing is what you can wear to work, be functional in, be smart in, and be presentable in. Something that if you had to walk up to, if you had to appear before anybody, you won't have to think twice and start adjusting and all of that. That for me is what corporate dressing is. And for teachers, we could say that we're going fully corporate, the way we know corporates, of this structured dresses that are pinned up this way, tailored that way. It could work more in the secondary schools. And that's where we have a lot of teenagers. It could work a whole lot more there. Because you really, even if you have to engage with the students one-on-one, you're engaging with them like semi-adults. So there's no need for a lot of bending and maybe sitting on the floor and all of that. But for the primary, the primary level, kindergarten, creche, please, I don't see it being practical for us to say the teachers at that level should go corporate. It's not practical. It's enough reason for the teacher to just say, look, let me just come in, do what I have to do and get out. I know that when I got into, that was the school I went to, and going to the school, I went for the interview all corporate because, that's the general rule of thumb. I went in looking all corporate. But during the orientation, we were told that we really do not care what you wear. As long as what you wear is good enough for you, is decent. So for the years that I was in that school, I wasn't wearing heels because it wasn't practical to wear heels to school. I had to do a lot of sneakers and flats. So somebody else sees that and says, oh, you You don't look corporate. Why would you be wearing sneakers? But the truth of the matter is I had to be on my feet. I had to be able to respond to these children at the drop of a hat. Something happens, you have to be able to respond and not thinking, oh, if I bend this way, my dress may tear. If I bend that way, my slits may open up, stuff like that. And then because it's so corporate, they're thinking about the material, they're thinking about laundering, and oh, I can't stain this dress. No, for me, corporate dressing, according to my definition, it's functional, it's responsible. You're not going to school to show the children, to distract them with your dressing, but you're going to school to be able to perform your duties to the best of your abilities without anything hindering you.
All right, thank you. To add to what you said, corporate dress actually has been a lingua that we've adopted that actually is connoting professionalism, whereas it's not necessarily professionalism. Yeah. Corporate dress is a communal acceptance of an outlook. It doesn't mean that, for example, if we say shirt and trouser is corporate, in certain scenarios, when you are going for when you look at golf, you look at hockey, you look at badminton, you look at football, when you say corporate dress, that's the governing acceptable outlook for a communal group. That's one. Number two, that people need to recognize is when we're talking about corporate dress, it's a uniform. That's why you still come back to what Safety Chick was trying to say, that it's best we should start thinking of dress codes as opposed to uniform. Even the dress code itself is bringing uniformity, so that there would not be discrepancies of, hey, too much, hey, too little, too bad, too old school, too new school. There is a uniformity in that. And that's where really we need to begin to ask ourselves the honest truth. And I like the way Finn said it. I think that the rule of thumb should be functionality, but then we also must accommodate. Eben mentioned something as Safety Chick. I'm sure she's itching to say something. Eben said for people of thorough faith. I'm trying to reposition his sentence. So people of thorough faith, because of their faith bias or their depth of consecration, to them, there are certain things that might not appeal to their outlook for work. Just like some people will not put on contacts, regardless of if it makes them see better. Some people will use the big magnifying glass as some people will not put on short skirt. So those are preferences, but then we shouldn't now make them like a flashcard or rule of thumb. This is how things should be. So how do we take and accommodate people who like to be free and fly, who like to style themselves, who are fashionable and fashionista in nature, as opposed to the extreme conservative, who probably is private, who is not showy, who is still an expert and professional? How do we accommodate that? I want Safety Chick to jump in on that. Safety Chick, are you there? Oh, she ran out.
No, don't go. I can't wait for her at all. I can't wait for that. For a contribution towards that, because she wanted to give me immediately. Oh my God. Okay,
so let's take Olatunde Adebayo's statement. Modesty of the teaching profession, as for me, is to lead with relevance and maintaining lead on creativity and innovation. On ethical standards to be modeled, whatever that we help to maintain distraction from the main goal and attainment of educational goals and objectives should be encouraged to function as expected. All right, so I think the summary of what he's saying is still what we're coming back to, that we must understand that, especially for teachers, especially for schools, especially for teachers, I repeat, we must see ourselves as people on a stage. We must be like actors. And Eben knows, you are an actor, artist, all put together. So I don't think that beyond the shirt, tie, or blouse or whatever, there's nothing wrong if, for example, you want to be able to carry out, making your conversations in the learning space as real as possible. You can devise, sometimes there are days you might decide not to even wear your regular what do you call it, your regular outfit. You might decide to costume yourself to class, and I think we should be exploratory like that, so that we can bring subjects to life. Eben is always an advocate of saying integrating things into real life, bringing real life integration into an art integration especially. So we must find a way of making our subjects come to life. So there's nothing wrong. Maybe you don't normally put on a hat, but maybe you're a math teacher. You might need to put on a hat. Maybe you make a hat. You understand? For the purpose of teaching, it's not going to be every day. That's why I said we might need to also explore the costume. That makes you someone who is experiential. Students learn better when you get their attention, when you're able to paint a picture, and it's not difficult. Sometimes, at least I've seen Eben in action. I've seen Eben on overall, like a lab coat. Is it, what do you call that thing?
That you don't make just
but you are doing your stuff, because at that point in time you cannot be putting on white shirt, pocket square. As an artist, you want to be very free. So sometimes you have to take off the encumbrance.
I don't actually have choice at all. It's just like going for a training, not even a training, a workshop. And then I find myself there, I'll be putting on my suits, everything. And I used to tell them at the beginning of the class, please note, I'm dressing corporate now. By the time I get to my practical class, I'm going to remove all of this because I won't be comfortable to actually demonstrate some of those skills to you to be able to teach you. So I think there's one thing I actually want to mention, corporate dressing. I think that corporate dressing, according to my own observation about corporate dressing, it talks about ability for you to wear some of those ties, some of those t-shirts, some of those suits and more. And I believe that in the school environment, flexibility is actually very important. Flexibility, adaptation. I can't imagine a teacher who actually wants to teach us maybe digestive system without innovation. If you don't have projector in your classroom, how do you actually portray some of those things in the classroom? You can put on a t-shirt that actually labels everything, and the children can see that this is the part of the body that you are trying to talk about and more. I've seen a teacher who actually wore all the colors on art to actually teach the primary and secondary color. I was in my school last 3 weeks on Monday, and I actually wore a pattern to my school because I was teaching them motif and pattern. So I needed to actually make sure that there is a kind of instruction that they can see on me to actually make sure that they understand the subject matter in the classroom. As I said, there is no rules. Anything we call rules now will actually be altered. There was a time I do wear jeans to school, and then I was they were like observing me. This guy's wearing jeans to school. So later they now call me. I was like, Mr. Eben, you are wearing jeans to school, and this may not actually be allowed, this and that. Yes, I was like, okay, fine. I decided to stop the jean maybe because of myself. But on a normal day, wearing a jean does not mean that I am not dressing to actually suit my teaching style. Because if on a normal day, I work with chemical as an art teacher. And so on a normal day, if I want to teach also, I will need to actually go from left to right. So sometimes even wearing of trouser alone, I can be working with cutter or scissors, and the thing will actually tear my clothes immediately. So, as I said, corporate dressing to me should not actually be a word to describe, to actually use in the school environment. But there's something, you must not dress naked to the school. You are looking up. You must not dress naked to the school. Your shoulder must not be open. Your body must be everything. And I don't even believe in wearing the word. You make use of the word smart. Yes, dressing smart. But some people also see dressing smart as if, like my wife said yesterday, that when she was in school, I even remember that one. That when she was in school, one of the teachers said, "Do you want to blind us?" Because she was wearing a skirt, and the skirt was short. They told her the first time, the second time they said they are going to cut the skirt into pieces. And then she said, okay, they should just please, and she will wear another one next week. So when she came next week, they said her clothes was still tight. This is even students. Maybe we'll talk about student home also later. I think this is a very, it's a very, very interesting topic. But to me, one thing is that, yes, I think I like this particular comment. One thing is that our dressing corporate does not mean that we should embrace English wear. It actually means that we should dress in such a way that our nakedness is not open, in a way that the students will look at us and will not complain that, oh, my teacher is this, my teacher is that. I can go to school on Monday, I actually wear adire, but I will make sure that that adire is actually well organized. But it does not mean I should wear tie to school on Monday. A lot of people think that wearing tie to school on Monday simply means that you are serious as a teacher, wearing some of those t-shirts. Even if I'm talking, look, I did not talking. And this is how I actually dress in school today. And then I don't think I should tuck in my shirts before coming to school. Some of those things no, I'm actually Okoshi, you need to talk. We are waiting for you before. You need to talk.
You went to school as Ode today. Not Ode, you went as Ode.
Not as Ota. But to me, I think this is a very big topic that needs to be addressed. Before the colonial masters actually came to colonize us, there are ways that we dress. And I even know in the nearest future at Ogun State is about to embrace it. Students will be wearing will be wearing adire as school uniform. Even in Ghana, they are wearing some of their pattern as their school uniform. So I think teachers' uniform should not be all about corporate wear. It should go beyond corporate wear. There should be flexibility, there should be adaptation, and number one thing is that your nakedness must be covered.
All right, thank you very much. Ugochi, are you there? Just give us your thoughts, wrapping up as we get to draw the curtains of today's edition. Ugochi, are you there? Ugochi, if you're there, please unmute yourself.
Okay, right. Just to finalize the as a summary, thank you so much for that. I think there's a lag, so I'm hearing a bit late. Okay, so yeah, I'm in tune with what Eben said. It's about uniformity, but again, I'll just talk about self-regulation, because you see, even when you are dressing smart, even though you're wearing corporate in quotes, the formal pantsuit and all that, if you know your body type and you know that something is going to cause a distraction, by yourself, self-regulate. You don't need anybody to chase you to do that. You're an adult, you're a teacher, and I know people will say, well, we should stop forcing teachers to be model, but if you are standing in front of children every day, you are modeling, children are watching and they're taking notes, so you should self-regulate. Thank you very much, sir.
All right. Sophie, do you have any parting shots as we wrap up today's show?
I'll just say live and let live. Teachers' lives matter. The kind of haunting and that goes into looking at the way a teacher is dressed, and for parents trying to impose their preferences on teachers, it needs to stop. As much as the teachers are not exposing their nudity to your children, as much as they are not coming to school indecently, maybe hair not combed, or teachers that keep dreads, I don't think there's anything wrong with it, as long as it is well maintained. Leave them be, live and let live. What is important is the teacher. If my teachers were standing in front of me and they were looking very drab, it would be distracting also. So a teacher should look fun, should look smart, should look friendly, should look inviting. So if I want to pack my hair in two ponytails, yes, I used to go to school sometimes, I pack my hair in two ponytails. I really do not care what any parent feels like, oh, she's coming to school in Binta style. That's your business. Live and let live. Let's also realize that teachers have the right of expression and I would say here, of responsible expression. Yes, we are teachers, we are role models, whether we accept it or not, we are role models, and we really need to let the children see this and let them even want to be teachers. Not like, oh, so with the way my teacher dresses, I don't ever want to touch teaching with a long pole. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've learned a lot today. We've heard a lot today. We've laughed a lot today, and I'm sure that you're going to take what you've learned.
No conclusion for me now.
Okay, let's have your conclusion.
Okay,
conclusion
as I said,
Ode.
Oh no, that is my old name. My new name is Iben. So I think it is when talking about teachers' uniform, as I said, it is all about personality. We are creating our personality through this uniformity. So you should make sure as much as possible, follow your religion, follow your culture, and make sure that you are flexible, adaptability, innovation, creativity with the way you dress, because your dressing in the classroom actually matters a lot in the classroom. And some of those children sometimes talk about us, and they also see a lot of dressing out there. So there's a way you can actually get their interest towards the way so many things you do. I saw a post this morning on Instagram about a school in Spain. A boy was expelled because he wore a skirt, and then because of that, a lot of teachers, while teaching online, decided to be wearing skirts just because the boy was expelled. So as much as possible, as I said, there is no rules, but make sure that you cover your nakedness, and make sure that everything you put on is towards the goal of education at large. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eben. And please do not wear skirts because you use scissors and you use cutter. You know what happens in the garden of Eden to happen to you.
So that's not our culture now.
So we don't want what happens in the garden of Eden to happen to you. All right, thank you so much. It's been an interesting one. We look forward to being here tomorrow. And we're going to be having conversations that would also drive us towards making ourselves better professionals and experts within the sphere of education. Thank you, Ugochi. Thank you, Fini. Thank you, Odetola Ebenezer, also known as Eben, aka Las Vegas, Nevada. All right, so we will end the show with the usual, and we'll create an upbeat to it. And today, we're going to ask that the ladies start and then the men will end. So we're going to have, it's always a great morning, and then the men will end with on the Good Morning Education show. So, ladies, over to you.
1, 2,
it's always a great morning.
On the Good Morning
Education show.
Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.